I'm really very pleased that we're going to talk this evening about food waste, the myth, the reality, and what we can do about it. And Kelvin Chung, who is the founding CEO of the social enterprise Food Cycle, on my immediate left, and Emma Marsh from Love Food Hate Waste, and George Gordon from Tesco's Social Policy Department, are going to speak to us this evening about food waste in the UK and what we as individuals and communities can do to cut it down.
Essentially, the first thing really is to say there is a real looming crisis with food in the UK. 7 billion people, all enjoying modern lifestyles, leads us to living off 3 planets. By 2050, there'll be 9 billion of us. And we are wasting a third of the food globally. It can't continue. It's a major issue. And really for us, in the developed countries, the majority of that food waste comes from us, from our homes. And that's the really big issue here, that we're not even realising that we're wasting food. The majority of us will say we don't waste food. 1 in 4 calories is wasted around the world. By 2030, we'll have an increased demand of 50% for energy, the same for food and 30% for water. It's an absolute minefield in terms of what we're going to do going forward if we're going to make sure that people aren't starving and making sure that actually we're making the most of the food we buy. But the really big problem is that this is massively complicated. It's not a case of us going out and saying, could you just reduce your food waste, please? It's really easy. Just don't waste it. It is not one behaviour. This is multiple behaviours, down to very finite issues such as the way we shop, what products we can buy, economic issues, social issues. You can see all through here that every single one of those impacts on individual behaviours that cause food to be wasted. So it could be the shelf life of a product, it could be our attitudes, it could be our values, it could be what motivates us, our awareness of the issue. What do we actually have in our kitchen? Do we have a freezer? Because all of the reasons for wasting food aren't about waste. They're actually just about our lives. It could be we have incredibly busy lives and we have to change our plans at the last minute. It could be that we just never remember to actually check in the fridge or freezer, or one of us goes to check the fridge, but then the other person also in the family goes shopping as well. Many, many reasons why we're wasting food. And just talking about the environmental benefits won't change that. We have to think about all the motivations, talking to people about where they are in their lives right now to really make a difference. Encouraging people, what's in it for them? We need to work with where people are, not where we expect them to be or want them to be. So it's thinking about the fact that actually saving money really is the key motivator. We can't talk to people about the environment because that's not the top thing on top of their list. Raising awareness and provision of information alone are not going to be sufficient to get people to change their behaviour. So that's why we have a Cascade training programme, which is free to anyone. We go out to any groups, whether it's in a business, whether it's in a community group, and we will provide Love Food Hate Waste training to really talk to individuals about their key reasons for wasting food. Because we all have our own irrational reasons for doing it, but actually there's a solution pretty much for everything. But ultimately, I want to finish by just saying we need all of us to do this, whether it's us as individuals, whether it's the company we work for, whether it's where we shop. We all need to take action to do it.
I don't need to tell you that Tesco has had a reputation issue. And a lot of the reputation issue that Tesco has got is around its speed of expansion in the last 20 years and the size of the business. And I think if we're honest, we probably spent quite a lot of time defending or trying to deflect the size of Tesco as a business. And I think in truth, we probably did that unsuccessfully. So one of the things that we did over the last couple of years was to look at if Tesco is going to be wanted and needed in the communities that it wants to serve now, next week and into the future, then it has to do more and use its scale for good. And so that's what we've been trying to do for the last year or so in terms of working out how we can take corporate responsibility from being something which was if you like, peripheral to our commercial interests and make sure that we could embed it within what we're trying to do as a business. We're acutely aware of the environmental and social issues caused by current levels of consumption, and we know that if we carry on the way we're going at the moment, that the world is going to be in a pretty bad place. We are acutely aware, being a retailer the size that we are, that we have a responsibility to deal with that. But what we see when we see the whole picture, and this is a whole picture of food which is produced and consumed in the UK, is that a third of the food is wasted, and most of it is either in the supply chain between where it's grown or cultivated or brought up as livestock, all the way through to the retailer, and the rest of it is mainly with the customer. And what we've realised as a retailer, as a big retailer, is of course we've got a responsibility in that middle blue area, and really the ultimate aim is to try and make that the thinnest blue line we can possibly have. But we've also got a shared responsibility all the way back through suppliers and big suppliers like branded manufacturers, but also all the way to farmers and smallholders, not just in the UK, but in all the markets that we operate in. Emma's talked through an awful lot of the research that's been done by WRAP, and we did some research ourselves earlier this year to find out where Tesco customers were in terms of why they waste food and how we can help. And I don't want to reiterate everything Emma said, but it became very clear to us that on bread and vegetables, these are the areas which get wasted most, and we realised that a lot of the actual causes of it in the kitchen were down to things like forgetting about food and not being clear on the date label and how long it lasts for. Through this work, we've realised that we had a whole array of date coding on our fruit and vegetables. So we had some that had used by, we had some that had best before, we had some that had display until. And we've realised that the display until date was only really there to help the store. It wasn't really there to help the customer. And actually, a lot of people would read the display until date and think, actually, that's going to go out of date, and it's not. And we've realised that that's a mistake. So we've begun a process of removing display until completely from fruit and vegetables through our 3,000 stores in the UK. And we're now working with WRAP to work out, well, now we've done that, what's the next thing we can do in terms of storage instructions? What I hope is that over the coming months and over the coming years, we'll be able to demonstrate to audiences like yourself, some of whom might be Tesco customers, some of whom may not, that we can actually use our scale for good. Thank you.
So we're Food Cycle. And what we do is we collect surplus food from supermarkets like Tesco and bring it to a local community kitchen and then cook it for people in need. So that's our kind of strap line. The two main things for us is about food poverty and social isolation. So when I started this about 5 years ago, it was all about, let's just get food to people in need. There's food waste, there's food poverty. What Food Cycle does is kind of like kill two birds with one stone. But what we've found in the last 5 years is one of the most valuable things for us as an organization is the social isolation aspect and what we do for people who are living very lonely lives in retirement homes and also in their own like shelter accommodation. And so we have two major operations. One of them is the hubs model. So you can imagine us as kind of the local scout group. So we call ourselves Food Cycle Hubs. We've got Food Cycle Hub groups all across the country. They're led by amazing volunteers that also kind of inspire and lead their local volunteers in cooking and serving their local community. It's just local links and also meeting the needs of each local community. So some people ask us, who do you serve? Do you serve the homeless, refugees? Who are your volunteers? And I would say in 17 of our locations, each one of those relationships is different. For us, what we do is we give each location the health and safety training, the branding, the fundraising campaigns, the contacts with the supermarkets, all those things that actually, when we first started, it took me about 8 months full time to get for one location. Now, because we've done that 17 times, it still takes a while, but we're able to do it a lot faster. So we give them that skills and experience. and allow them to decide what they want to do in the local community. So we also have this 5-day-a-week cafe, and this is where our kind of professional catering comes out of, that we also do apprenticeship training. So we've got 2 ideas going on. So if you're interested in business and sustainability, the cafe right now runs on about, I think we just had our annual accounts, and we've made about £75,000 during the year. The whole program's cost about $100,000. So we're still fundraising for the other 25, but the idea is to have it, stand as a business that not only produces really good food for the local community, but also training up apprentices to, go into long-term employment as well. As the hubs grow in maturity, we really want to add on different things there. So whether it's healthy food training, whether it's food waste training, whether it's apprenticeships, or a food cooperative or a food bank, we really want to make sure that we work with local partnerships. So it's not just a meal, that there is a theory of change there. So why you get into this, why you come out of it, there's a plan. So whether you're alone, you make friends, or you're unemployed, so we help you access benefits or get into jobs and things like that. So that's all from us at Food Cycle. Thanks for listening.